the one, the only Bencio Land. All right, good evening and welcome to the last year on marriage. 10 really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make. Chapter 16. Most of chapter 16 is just a recap of the 10 dumb mistakes that really smart couples make. We've covered these throughout the book. I'm not going to go rehash what he says. If you want to hear about them, listen to the other shiurim. I just want to call it an outro, my final analysis of this book and my final analysis of marriage. My parting words are like this. And the first few pages of this final chapter, he actually adds something new. And he adds a story with Rabbi Akiva Eger, who was a famous rabbi in the 18th century. In yeshivas, he's known as one of the foremost commentaries of the Achronim, of the later Mefarshim. This is what he writes. In Igeres, in a letter, Rabbi Akiva Eger writes something amazing. After his wife passed away, someone suggested a prospective match. Here's a loose translation of how he responded. And his wife died, and they wanted to know if he wanted to go back into Shidduchim. This is what he answered. How can I answer you? This is what he said. All of my senses are confused. I can't concentrate on anything. How can I forget the love of my wife, the wife of my youth, my pure dove, who Hashem blessed me with? We produced wonderful children together. She raised them to Torah, Yirei Shamayim. She supported my every effort. She cared for my health and wellness. With whom shall I share my worries and receive comfort? Who will look after and care for me? The author notes, absorb that for a moment before reading the next thing he wrote. And Rekevier continues, as you can tell, I'm a broken man in a dark world. I have lost all pleasure. I accept Hashem's decree, but I cannot answer any questions now. The tears make me unable to read. I did everything in my power to care for my wife and keep her alive. Now I am too weak and in grave danger. I am unable to eat. I can't eat. I can barely keep anything down. I can't sleep. I can't daven without distraction. I can barely learn. That's the end of the letter. Those are the words of one of the great human beings of his generation, one of the greatest Talmidei Chacham of any recent generation, Rabbi Akiva Eger. He says he can't daven properly. He can't learn. He is broken because his wife is gone. When you find great people, the author says, that's the type of marriage you find. When you peer into the lives of Gedolim, you see the love. It's not publicly displayed. There are no public displays of emotion. But when you dig deeper, you see the attachment, the bond, the love, and you understand what a marriage really is. The author ends off the book. I hope that you have found this book helpful, and if you have, I urge you to return to it over and over again. Return to my shiur over and over again. Reading something once is nice, but lasting influence requires more than that. Your match was made in heaven, but it's up to you to make the marriage. May Hashem grant you only nachas, mazal, and bracha. May you always find tremendous divine assistance, and may Hashem help you have a beautiful, successful marriage the way He intended it to be. Benzion Schaefer, Nissan 5781. I guess this book was finished around 2 years ago. That's how he concludes the book. Now, I want to talk about this letter that Rabbi Akiva Eger wrote. I think it's very significant to my perspective on marriage and my perspective differing pretty much with the author's assessment. The author, I will say in this book, has a lot of things right. He understands marriage pretty well. He has a pretty good grasp of marriage. He's dealt with it. And this is in my opinion. You could argue with me. You can say Benzion Schaefer is the foremost opinion on marriage. There is no one in the world who knows more about marriage than Benzion Schaefer. You're entitled to your opinion. Even if you're Benzion Schaefer and you think that, you're entitled to your opinion. I would still like one day to sit down with Benzion Schaefer, because we share the same name, really, technically. My last name used to be Schaefer, 4 generations ago. And have an honest discussion about a lot of things that I disagree with him. But I will say this, he has a good grasp of marriage, but not a complete grasp of marriage. And what's most notable, I've reiterated this many times, is the lack of writing something about intimacy. He fails to really focus on that and say how important. I know he wants to write a book not about that, but he should at least repeatedly remind the readers that the most important part of a marriage is the bedroom, is the intimacy. If you don't have that, if you don't have a good marriage in the bedroom, then you have no marriage. Your marriage doesn't even start. If you have good over there, and you're able to communicate well in the bedroom, then you'll have a great marriage. You'll continue to communicate outside the bedroom. But communication is the key to a good marriage. If you can communicate honestly, really know as a spouse what bothers you, and be able to verbalize it to the other spouse, then any problem, almost any problem, can be fixed because you can negotiate, you can work it out. Even spiritual matters. If you differ spiritually, it could be worked out. You can negotiate. It's usually in good advice to people in marriages to stay married. It's not a good idea to break up a marriage. To get divorced is not a good thing. You look in the Gemara Masechtas Gittin at the end. It's not a good thing to get divorced. It's very hard on each of the spouses, and even more so on the children who have to grow up in a broken house. And it's a very sad thing. Divorce is not a good thing. There are certain instances where it's necessary. In cases where there's two according to me, basically there's two reasons that divorce is valid. Number one, divorce is valid if there's abuse, if one spouse is physically abusing the other spouse, or if someone's extremely verbally abusing, the other one can't tolerate it. That could also be grounds for divorce. The other grounds for divorce is, like I said, if it's not working out in the bedroom, if one spouse is not into the other spouse, not attracted to the other spouse, or one spouse can't show love to the other spouse, they're not skilled in the bedroom enough, that is grounds for divorce, because as I said, the whole essence of marriage is the bedroom. And if you don't have a good marriage in the bedroom, you don't have a marriage. You have nothing. Marriage is all about that. The Gemara in Ksuba says, why everyone knows why a kala, why does a kala get married? This is the essence of marriage. This is all that marriage is really about. It's all based on that. And it's noted that the author did not focus enough on that and not mention that enough. He had a small excerpt where he talks about intimacy, but not enough to stress how important it is in a marriage. So that's one thing that gripe that I have with this book, that he didn't focus on it enough. Does he maybe believe that's the essence of marriage and not want to write it in a book because he wants the masses to read it, and some people will be turned off by reading about intimacy too much? I don't think so. I think he has a poor judgment of this element in marriage, of the grave importance of this area in marriage. And I believe because he doesn't understand this, his suggestions for how to fix things in marriage, to go out once a week on a date night, to learn how to say that's strange. That's the two most important words in a marriage. He says that's strange. No. Two most important words in marriage are I'm sorry. Now that's a pretty big mistake to make. And he says the second set of words that are most important in a marriage is, what did he say? The second most important words in a marriage, I don't know. It wasn't I'm sorry. The point is that both of his most important phrases in marriage were not I'm sorry, and that's the most important thing in marriage, because whether you really hurt the other person or you didn't, if they feel hurt, you have to apologize. And it'll end all your discussions, it'll end all your negotiations. Just apologize. If they feel hurt, whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't make a difference in marriage. Just acknowledge and say you're sorry. That's the key to a good marriage, is to be able to say you're sorry. If you can't say you're sorry, you just prolong arguments forever and ever. Just say you're sorry. That's all it takes. It takes a man to do that. Maybe a woman also. She's grown up, she's mature. Say you're sorry. That will conclude all fights. And, a lot of this book, marriage, is essentially about communication outside the bedroom. And I think the solutions he talks to resolving fights or squabbles, or not getting into them in the first place, a lot of squabbles and fights are not really what the people are saying. They're saying something, but really something else deep down is bothering them, whether it's conscious or subconscious. Something is bothering them. And they're not saying that because they're not comfortable in the bedroom and they can't communicate well. When you can't communicate well, you make up excuses, you say things, and the marriage will never be fixed because you're not communicating. And that is the second most important thing in marriage. After the bedroom is communication. Obviously, if you can't communicate well in the bedroom, you feel uncomfortable in the bedroom, you're not going to be able to communicate outside the bedroom, and you're going to basically lie to your spouse or lie to yourself and not know what's making your marriage suffer. And the last point, where I want to focus on this letter that he wrote from Rabbi Akiva Eger, if you look closely at this letter, you see how much Rabbi Akiva Eger was talking about, how much he loved his wife. But I find he talked about his Rebbe also, Rabbi Leibowitz, the Rebbe of Ben Zion Schaefer, he talked about the eulogy he gave for his wife. He said, "I'm distraught. My life can't go on. We built the yeshiva together. She took care of my health." This is what Ricky Vega was talking about. My wife took care of my health. I took care of her health. We were cared for each other's well-being. Yes, it's important in marriage to be there emotionally, physically for the other person. But what's neglected in his book a lot, he tries to talk about you should go on a date night once a week, is that marriage, for it to succeed, especially a monogamous relationship for many years, a marriage to succeed for many years, which ideally it should, you need to have fun. You have to constantly reinvest in them. You're the same two people. Your children aren't changing so much. Not that much changes in life. And you have to reinvent marriage many times and do different things, try different things, be in the bedroom, be outside the bedroom, to have a good time, fun together. And that's the point of marriage that's overlooked. Yes, of course, you're there to emotionally and physically be there for your spouse. But to say after they die that you're a completely broken person, if your wife passes away, go on and be a man and get married to another woman. Don't die. The way to avoid death is to seek life. And seeking life, the Gemara says in Maseches Yevamos that it's usher for a man to be without a wife. Now, Rekiva Eger, I don't know how old he was. He knew the Gemara, obviously. Maybe he was physically unable to get married. I don't know his situation at that point. But according to halacha, a man needs to be with a woman, whether she died or you're divorced. A smart man, a mature man, realizes that the only good in this world is to be around a woman. If you don't have a woman in your life, you're missing life. Women give men life, and ideally men should give women life also. But that's the essence of the world, the man-woman relationship. Because we're so different, men and women are so different, and because of the physical attraction between the two, that's what makes life fun. It makes life interesting, and you need a woman in your life to make it interesting. When I read a letter that Ricky Vega wrote that he couldn't bear, it was so much of a blow to him, he can't learn anymore, he can't eat anything. You have to move on in life. I mean, the Torah mandates 7 days of mourning for your wife, 12 months for your parents, but only 7 days for your wife. Yet after 12 days, you get up, you shave your beard, you get a haircut, you take a shower, and you move on with your life. There's a certain amount of time, maybe 30 days before you can get remarried, but you're supposed to, Hashem wants you to live, Hashem wants you to have life. And for marriage to be successful in the marriage, you have to reinvent it, have fun, enjoy yourselves. It's not about building a yeshiva together. It's not about building a business together. It's about the two spouses joining together to have a good time together and make life light and fun. And that's really what a marriage is, to enjoy your life. That's Chaim. Chiyus is marriage. Marriage is the life. That's really what life is about. Life equals marriage, or at least a relationship with a woman. And if you're a smart man, you find a good woman, that will be the key to life. If you find a good wife, a good partner, that's the key to life. And if you don't have that, if you're not married, seek that wife. And if your wife passes away or you get divorced, seek another woman. Make sure you have that stability and also the enjoyment in life. And that's, he talks about the Gedolim and their beautiful marriages. But in my opinion, I don't know the personal lives of Gedolim, but from the stories that I hear about them, I draw the opposite conclusions. Yes, they were probably devoted spouses. They probably fulfilled all their obligations of marriage properly. But I don't see too much personality in the Gedolim. And if you don't have personality as a person, you can't have a good marriage. Women are not going to be amused by how many hours of Torah you learn. It's not going to give them a good time. You have to play games with them. You have to take them for walks. You have to have fun with them. You have to travel with them. If you don't have these things in your life, then you don't have a good marriage. You might fulfill all the obligations of the ksuba, right? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. If you have no income, that's probably not fulfilling part of the ksuba that you're supposed to be fulfilling. But if you don't have any fun in your life, that's not a marriage either, right? To just be married to a woman, to me it seems a lot. I'm not saying all the Rabbanim, all the Gedolim, but it seems, if you ask honestly, and they took a lie detector test, you ask the Gedolim, what do they love more? They love Torah more, or they love their wife more? I guarantee you they would all say they love Torah more, which is the wrong answer. Because Chaim is the woman. It's not about the Torah. The Torah is a guide to tell you how to enjoy the world. The practical application of the Torah is get married and have a good marriage together and enjoy life that way. So, to me, that's the final message I'd like to leave you with, is that marriage is life, but only if it's a real marriage, a fun marriage. Hope you enjoyed today's book. This past, I don't know, 3 or 4 months book. We're moving on in the next lecture series to Shidduch Secrets. Moving backwards, we did a lecture series on intimacy, then we went to marriage in general, mostly outside of the bedroom, and now we're going to be doing it about dating and Shidduch Secrets for all those people who are not yet married and are looking for an advantage in the dating world. Tune in. I believe I'll start at the end of this week for Shidduch Secrets episode number 1. Hope you enjoyed. See you in Shidduch Secrets.